What's going on, guys? This is Jake at That Fit Friend, and today we're going to be looking at the Reebok Nano X Froning. And as always, before we dive into the pros, I will say everything is timestamped below, so if you want to jump around to any part where I even compare these to other Nano 11 iterations, or even the Reebok Nano X Froning, check out those timestamps below. The first pro that I have with this model is the overall aesthetic and attention to detail. So with the Reebok Nano 11 Venture, I thought Reebok did a really good job at nailing those details and like more of the aesthetic appearance of that model. But honestly, I think this model might actually take the cake when it comes to being like very aesthetically pleasing and being very interesting to look at, especially when it comes to the detail of the branding, some of the design work, and the overall Froning branding. So we have some branding back here on the heel loop that is somewhat asymmetrical because it doesn't sit perfectly on the backward heel tab. And then we also have some Froning branding on the insole. So overall, from an aesthetics point of view, the shoe is freaking awesome. The second thing that I like about this model is just the overall comfort. So unlike the other Nano 11s, this is a booty style design, which we'll talk about in a little bit too, because there also is a con to this, I think. But overall, from a pro standpoint, this model is very comfortable. And honestly, like for longer sessions and just general wear, this shoe I think is pretty dang comfortable across the board. And I think you're gonna like how the midfoot and toe fits in this model. The third pro that I have with this model is that I do think it's a solid blend of like versatility and stability. The Reebok Nano 11 is not the most stable compared to the Reebok Nano 10. However, this shoe I think does a pretty good job in a lot of lifting settings, like training up to 400, 450, it was fine. Squatting up to 275-ish, 300, it was fine. So I think for most folks, they'll find that this shoe performs exceptionally well across the board, especially in a lot of CrossFit settings or functional fitness settings. And overall, with the textile upper and the rework construction, I do think the upper is pretty dang durable. Now I'll talk on the midfoot in just a second too, but overall, those are my three pros with this model. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It looks freaking cool, I have to say. And also, overall, I like the rework construction features for the most part, but now let's talk about a couple of cons. So two cons I do have with the Reebok Nano 11 Froning is this upper boot construction. So as a whole, I really do enjoy the booty style design of this model, but towards the upper part of the boot, we have this different material and it's a little bit loose in nature. So I worry that if you have a more narrow foot or a very like narrow ankle in regard to your width of like your bone structure and just your overall anatomy, you may have a little bit more room up here. And even like myself, I have some room when I was like working out and training. I was looking at it, like I didn't notice any heel slip per se, but there's definitely a little bit of wiggle room up here. And like with this lacing system, I'm not exactly sold that everybody's gonna be able to get this midfoot like really locked down and secure. The second potential con I could see folks having with this model is this elastic strap. So with the lacing system in this model, because it's not your traditional lacing system, you pull down on this guy, then you tuck this under this elastic strap here. The problem is that this elastic strap is not very thick in nature, and I wish it was actually a little bit more of like elastic. Like it snaps down pretty well, but I think a slightly thicker material that has a little bit more like of a tenacity to it when it comes to like really locking down that midfoot would have been a bit better, because I do worry like with rope climb and prolonged use, if you have a lot of friction on the front portion of the foot, is this going to break down? I mean, time will tell, but overall, I'm not exactly sold on it. Plus, I know like this little loop here is for pulling on, but like, it's funny when I first put these on, my girlfriend was like, oh, they gave you like a little pencil holder on your shoe and like you could stick a pencil in it. It's something, bad joke. But also I do feel like they could have probably went without this little heel tab here. It would have been easy to pull this up regardless. And now you just have this like little piece of material just flopping around. But overall, those are my two cons with this model. I do enjoy how this model performs, and I do enjoy the subtleties and the detail that Reebok put into the shoe. But those are two construction factors that I could see bothering some athletes and lifters. So when chatting performance and the Reebok Nano 11 Froning, I'm gonna break this section into three different parts. We'll talk about lifting, plyometrics, agility, and HIIT training, and then shorter runs and daily wear. Now, when it comes to lifting, for this model, you're gonna get exactly the same feel and performance that you will get with other Nano 11 iterations. The midsole and outsole are exactly the same, and there are virtually no changes to it. We have that float ride energy foam midsole throughout, full rubber lug pattern outsole, and overall, like this model is decently stable in my opinion. Is it as stable as the Reebok Nano 10? No. However, I do think for most recreational lifters and CrossFitters, you should be just fine in this model. Like training up to 450 in this model alone, it's been plenty fine. And I have lifted up to 505 in my other Nano 11s, and they were okay, not the best, but they did support that load decently well. I do like the upper construction in this model because it does make the toe box feel a little bit wider. So if you are worried about toe splay when lifting, I do think the shoe has a slight edge compared to the other Nano 11 iterations where the upper can feel a little bit limiting at times when it comes to like really letting those toes splay and grip the floor. When it comes to agility, hit training, and plyos, this model is okay too. Honestly, I'll usually take the Nano 11 over my 10s or 9s when it comes to that style of training because with that float ride energy foam midsole, you do get a lot of reactivity. And overall, compared to the Nano 10 Froning, this model is a lot more lightweight. And so that being said, for plyos and hit training, and I do like this model a bit more compared to the previous Nano 10 Froning because of the lightweight nature of it. And with that Nano 11 midsole and outsole, you're gonna get a little bit more responsiveness out of this shoe. So if that does sound like you with your specificity of training, I think you will like this model. When it comes to shorter runs and daily wear, for daily wear, I like this model. If you want to wear these on a daily basis and you don't really mind like the overall durability of the shoe when you're wearing them on a daily basis, I think you'll find this model is very comfortable. So when it comes to shorter runs, you can use this model for tackling like 1, 2, maybe 3 miles, but overall, like I'm not actually the biggest fan of running in this shoe for 2 key reasons. Number one, with this boot construction and how much room there is, like it doesn't feel super secure. It kind of feels like you're moving around a lot in your shoe and swimming in it a tiny bit. And that's why I was doing a lot of like jumping where I was really trying to get those toes to move up in the shoe because I wanted to see how this heel and boot actually engage with the foot and locked you in. And the second reason why I'm not the biggest fan of running in this model is with that wider toe box, which is a good thing for lifting and a lot of plyos in my opinion, where you really want to grip the ground, it does feel a little like boaty. Like you feel a little bit clunky in this model, like you're just kind of like slapping around. So overall, this will work for shorter runs, but if you're looking for a more dedicated running shoe and you're looking at the Nano 11, I would suggest maybe looking at the other models. So now let's ask the question, is the Reebok Nano 11 Froning worth it? Personally, I think if you are a Rich Froning fan and you kind of like having those like more signature models, then this shoe is worth it. The overall rework construction is very interesting. It's a very aesthetically pleasing shoe and it performs exceptionally well across the board. Now, if you are somebody who doesn't really care about the Rich Froning branding and you're just looking for a more versatile style training shoe, you could probably save a little bit of money looking into other Nano 11 models or even prior Nano models. But for my Rich Froning fans out there, I do think this model is pretty dang awesome. So when talking sizing and fit in this model, you should be fairly safe going true to size. The length feels true and the reworked upper construction with the booty design does give you a little bit more room in the toe box in my opinion because it does feel like it has a little bit more give to it. So I don't think you're gonna have to size up in this model. So you should be safe going true to size in the Reebok Nano 11 Froning. Now when it comes to price for this model, you can expect to pay $150 USD. Now that is pretty steep, especially for cross-training shoes. However, when you're going for those more signature models, you're generally gonna have to pay a little bit more. So if you are a Rich Froning fan and you like the overall aesthetics of the shoe, I think the price could be justified. However, there are definitely more budget-friendly options out there if you're not exactly sold or care about having this more signature model. So when looking at the construction of the Reebok Nano 11 Froning, up here on the toe box, we have that extended outsole layer that wraps up. Then we have that float ride energy foam midsole throughout and that extended outsole layer here on the midfoot on the lateral and medial side. We also have that plastic like TPU heel clip, just like in all the other Nano 11 models. Thus far, like there's no changes when it comes to the midsole or outsole in this model compared to the other Nano 11 iterations. On the upper here, we have a textile upper throughout. So as you can see, we have some branding back here, some hardcore Reebok branding, Nano 11 branding on that heel clip, Reebok here, and then some more subtle Reebok branding up here. Then on the tabs, on the actual boot construction here and on the heel, we have some Nano/Froning branding, boom, Nano/Froning. And then on the insole here, we also have additional Froning branding. So as mentioned before, we do have a booty style construction in this shoe, so we don't have that additional tongue, and we have a reworked lacing system. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 eyelets that go up, and then you have this elastic drawstring to pull down and lock that foot in. And then with this drawstring, you're gonna tuck it under this more like thin elastic strap. Now we've talked on both these features already in this video, but overall, I'm not exactly like for or against this lacing system. It's interesting. It does a decent job at locking the foot down. However, I do think with this material up here in the boot, and as you can see, it does look kind of loose. I do think there could have been a slight reworking there overall, but thus far, it's been pretty good across the board. I'm just curious about the long-term durability with these two features, especially with prolonged training sessions where you might be having some friction on the upper part of the shoe. With the insole itself, it does remove. So we have that standard thinner insole that removes in this model. Again, we have some Rich Froning on this. So as you can see, we have some Into the Storm branding there. And overall, guys, I think that's really the gist of this model. It is very different when it comes to the upper construction. They're trying to innovate with the Nano Froning line. You could really tell like they're trying some different things here. And if you have any questions on the construction details of this model, hit me in the comments below. So 3 key differences between the Nano 10 Froning and the Nano 11 Froning include number 1, their weight. The Nano 11 Froning is much more lightweight in nature compared to the 10 Froning, and that's because this model has that rubber strap, that TPU wrap back here on the heel, and a very thick upper construction on top of that TPU wrap down here. So if you're worried about weight, the Nano 11 Froning is much more lightweight in nature compared to the 10 Froning. Another thing to note is that with the 11 Froning, you're not getting a traditional lacing system. You're getting this reworked elastic cord here, and you're getting that loop lacing system that we also saw in the Nano 10 Froning. So you're not gonna have traditional laces, you have this drawstring and this elastic cord to lock that drawstring down. In the Nano 10 Froning, you had the lacing system with the loops as well. However, you also had a traditional lace. So if that is a make or break for you, that is something to keep in mind, because in the Nano 11 Froning, you do not have a traditional lacing system. The third thing to note about the differences between these two models is that I do think the Nano 11 Froning is a bit more versatile in nature, and the Nano 10 Froning is a bit more stable in nature. However, if I had to pick one for like an all the time kind of training shoe, I would probably take the Nano 11 Froning because it is decently stable overall, and you could do a bit more in it, in my opinion, when it comes to its responsiveness and ability to be comfortable for longer sessions. Overall, both are very interesting models, and I always love the black and white appearance that come along with the Froning models, but keep those notes in mind if you're on the fence between the two. All right, so now let's talk about some differences between the Nano 11 Froning, the regular Nano 11, and the Nano 11 Adventure. So I wanted to talk about the similarities first. So as you can see, the outsole wrap on the toe box and the outsoles as a whole are exactly the same. Sans the Adventure does have a slightly beefed up lug patterning to support more outdoor training, but overall the actual design work when it comes to the structure is pretty similar. And then all of the midsoles are exactly the same. So they all feature that Float Ride Energy Foam midsole throughout, and the last and outsole themselves don't actually seem that different. The Nano 11 Froning does seem slightly wider in the toe box, but I think that's mostly due to the upper construction and this more textile upper where it's a little bit more loose and I think has a bit more stretch to it compared to the Adventure or like this mesh material in the regular Reebok Nano 11. When it comes to the upper construction, on the Adventure over here on the left, we have a flex weave material throughout, then we have more of a mesh material on the regular Nano 11 and this textile upper on the Reebok Nano 11 Froning. I do like this upper compared to the Nano 10 Froning because it is a bit more lightweight. And then once again, we have that booty style design in the Nano 11 Froning compared to the traditional tongue design in the Nano 11 Adventure and the Nano 11. Now I will say, when it comes to the more superior tongue of these two, Nano 11 Adventure all day, we have that additional loop here which helps lock down that tongue, whereas the tongue slid a little bit in the regular Reebok Nano 11. Overall though, outside of the booty design in the upper, pretty much everything is the same with these shoes, especially when it comes to stability and versatility of the midsole and outsole. There's a lot going on with Reebok Nano 11 Froning, which we discussed in the construction section, but compared to these two models, if I had to pick one or the other, I would probably go Adventure or 11 Froning. Go Adventure if you're more interested in saving a tiny bit of money and training outdoors here and there, and go Nano 11 Froning if you are obviously a very diehard Rich Froning fan and you want some of that proprietary construction feature that come along with this model. All right guys, that wraps up my review of the Reebok Nano 11 Froning. Overall, I do enjoy this model and the rework construction that comes along with the upper and the booty style design. I think Reebok spent a lot of time paying attention to subtle details in the shoe that makes it really interesting. If you have any questions on this model, as always, drop them down below in the comments or reach out to me personally, either or, whichever's best for you. And as always guys, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.